If you're anything like me, you probably watched the movie Inside Out as a kid. Or for you adults out there, you probably heard it on repeats on your living room TV. But regardless, if you have seen this colorful, exciting, life-changing movie, you probably learned a few of the same lessons as me. Number 1, never eat broccoli on pizza. Number 2, don't be afraid of change. And number 3, never let those bad emotions take over your brain's control panel. But what if I told you number 3 is a little more difficult than it seems? What if I told you society actually loves these bad emotions more than the ones that we tend to praise? The hoax that humans love positivity and happiness is often countered by what society is really interested in, and that is negative emotions. The human experience of being addicted to negative emotions may be more common than you think. And so today I'll be diving deep into 3 emotions: anger, fear, and sadness, while we explore how these emotions are developed, how we become addicted to them, and why they affect society. You may not learn the same lessons you learned from Inside Out, but you will have a deeper understanding of what it means to live for the trauma and how humans tend to ignore that we do so. And so, before we dive into the juiciness of trauma addiction, like any good lesson, we must understand the why and how behind these ideals. So, how are negative emotions produced? Well, it may be surprising to know that the same reactions that take place to produce positive emotions are very similar to the ones we'll be talking about today. BetterHealth.gov states, our brain reacts to our thoughts by sending chemicals and hormones through our body, sending us into a state of arousal. This is true for all emotions, whether positive or negative. So the neurotransmitters that we can look at today are a variety across a broad range of emotions. Norepinephrine, also known as noradrenaline, is commonly found in fear and anger reactions. This is because norepinephrine plays a key role in our fight or flight response system. And so when we feel fear of anger, which is commonly placed in our fight or flight response, that is when norepinephrine is released. Because of this common similarity between fear and anger, the National Institute of Health states that fear and anger are classified as one core emotion, the stressful emotion, like 2 sides of the same coin. But this is different than sadness. Rather, sadness is a lack of norepinephrine and other neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. Serotonin and dopamine are known as the happy hormones because they play a key role in our mental well-being and our mental reward system. And so when we feel sad, we lack norepinephrine and these happy hormones, and even in severe cases, that can make us become depressed. So think of fear and anger as an inverse of sadness. While sadness is having a lack of these core neurotransmitters, fear and anger is having a release of them. Okay, so great. We know how they're produced, but how do we become addicted to them? I mean, they're just emotions, right? Well, wrong. Let's take a look at anger. Anger, I'm sure we can all agree, is an emotion that we allow to overpower all our rational standards of thinking. So when we feel anger and we react to it, it quickly takes over our fight or flight response system. And this is known as an adrenaline-seeking activity. And when we experience adrenaline-seeking activities, this actually produces happy hormones, the ones I just talked about, serotonin and dopamine. Isn't that crazy? That when you can feel angry, you actually get a sense of happiness when acting upon it. This also goes the same for fear, just as before. Fear is a key role in our fight or flight response system, and when we feel it and react on it, it also creates a sense of euphoria in our brains. Another interesting fact is that when we experience fear with groups of people, we can have a bonding moment with them. I mean, I don't know about you, but my main reason to have a bonding activity is to jump into my friend's arms at a haunted house. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? But then again, sadness is different from this. Sadness isn't really based on real-life interpersonal connections. It is based on media consumption. A research done by very good minds found that when participants were asked to recall personal tragic events and fictional tragic events, they felt severely more anxiety when recalling the personal ones. And so when we watch media that is sad, we can feel sadness without consequently feeling anxiety because, well, we're not the ones going through it. I mean, talk about empathy, am I right? But also, when we watch sad media, we can feel compassion, and we can feel a sense of gratitude for the things and loved ones we have in our lives. And this may seem like a good thing, when you watch sad media, to think of the people you love and the things that bring you joy, but it can become a bit of a slippery slope when you rely on media to feel appreciation. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'd rather tell my mom I love her instead of crying over the Notebook in order to get that same reaction. But hey, we all have our flaws. So now that we know why emotions are produced and how we become addicted to them, the main reason we're here today is to see how this affects society. And this truly does affect society, and I will prove it to you. So let's take a little survey. Raise your hand if you relate to any of these statements. Raise your hand if you like horror movies. Okay, how about true crime? I know I do. Raise your hand if you like sobbing to a good love story. Yep. And finally, raise your hand if you've ever posted, liked, or even laughed at a hate comment on social media. We listen and we don't judge. The truth is, as you can see all around this room, the addiction to negative emotions is prevalent. Let's first take a look at fear. Many of you raised your hands in response to saying that you like horror movies. Horror movies are the 5th most popular genre in America. And similar to this, true crime is loved by 83% of the US population ages 13 and older. Many people have different reasons for why they like true crime and horror, some of them being to learn tactics to survive when they come in contact with those situations, or having a sense of justice and knowing that these terrible perpetrators have finally been put behind bars. But whatever reason you like horror or true crime, you have to realize that if you like it a little bit too much, it can have its harms. A recent study was conducted and found that for people who watched more true crime and horror, they're more likely to experience anxiety and have more nightmares, which I'm sure many of us can relate to. But another factor that horror and fear brings out in us is desensitization. When we consume too much media surrounding fear and horror, we become desensitized to these feelings. And this can be scary because if we go out into the real world and experience these emotions, well, they won't have that much of an impact on us. Just think about how scary that could be, to be in a tough situation and not know how to get out of it because you just are too desensitized to it. But this desensitization is also in society. I mean, think about how many crazy people send serial killers love letters. Think about how many atrocious biopics have been made depicting these killers. And think about how many true crime fan accounts there are. The truth of the matter is we have just become too used to it and too obsessed with fear. And I have to say the same thing about anger. One of the main points of anger that people act on is hate watching. If you don't know what hate watching is, it's when you take a movie, book, or show that you hate and absolutely despise and watch it simply just to make fun of, laugh, or mock it. And this may seem like a good thing, to release rage and anger in little amounts. But research has shown that hate watching is directly tied to stereotypes and discrimination in the real world. And so when we continue to act on it, we can actually harm those around us. This goes for hate commenting too. I know a few of us raised our hands for hate comments, and it's nothing to be ashamed of, but when we hate comments, just know that 1/3 of social media users come in contact with that. And all of these actions tie to the same root of wanting to act upon anger. Anger has seeped into every day of our lives, and it truly is frightening. And the last emotion we're focusing on is sadness. I previously already talked about sadness and its media encounters, but another point I'd like to bring up is sob stories. I'm sure we all know what sob stories are, and can you imagine how many of those are sent on college applications? I mean, the answer is way too many. But luckily, college admissions advisors have grown to look past these sob stories. Unlike the judges of America's Got Talent. I mean, come on, yeah, his bird died 2 years ago, but he was not good enough to get a golden buzzer. I mean, sorry, I'm letting my own anger take a hold of me. But then again, it's just another example of how much this addiction to negative emotions has got us in society, and we truly need to recognize it. So, as I close today, I want to leave you off with one last point. It's hard to overcome our addiction to negative emotions. For one, addiction is hard to overcome in any way. But another truth is that society loves that we feed into negative emotions. The true crime and horror industry profits off of our addiction and our indulgence. Social media companies see the rise of their apps as we hate comments and return to their apps to comment again and again, simply because we can hide behind a screen. And hey, we all fall victim to sob stories because, well, the tactic just works. But I encourage you all not to be discouraged. Just because many of us feel this addiction and see its harms, it doesn't mean that it's impossible to get over. Like any societal issue, we must look within ourselves and recognize if we become too reliant on negative emotions, we can be a harm to ourselves and those around us. And so today, as I've talked about the addiction of negative emotions, I may have not have been as entertaining as the movie Inside Out, but I hope that you learned a few key lessons. 1, how negative emotions are produced. 2, how we become addicted to them. And 3, the importance of understanding that we as humans don't just live for the drama. No, we live for the trauma. Thank you.